I found a girl during the famine era, but 300 years later, during the immortal devil war, she, now a demon lord, pierced my heart with an arrow. She stepped on my body like I was a dead dog. Cheng Huayan, back when you framed me. Did you ever think this day would come? But what he didn't know was, I willingly died by his sword. I made a deal with the system. As long as I complete the mission, I can return to Blue Star. For that, 300 years ago, I stole the immortal sword, betrayed the sect to achieve the immortal venerable realm, and he was locked in the sect's dungeon, wishing he were dead. Otherwise, with my cultivation, how could I not dodge a sword from him, whom I trained myself? Standing before me is the world's only female demon lord, Luo Lingshuang, my former junior sister. Feeling my life slowly fading away, I could only smile bitterly. Was it really worth it? He didn't speak. Instead, he pulled the hateful life sword out of my body. Blood splattered all over his face. He kicked me to the ground, looking down at me from above. Those eyes, once as clear as a mountain she trim, now seemed frozen for 1,000 years. But deep within that ice, there was a barely noticeable tremor. Qin Huayan, do you have anything else to say? I opened my mouth, but it was full of blood. System, the mission requires me to die by his sword. I can't say anything that might shake his resolve. Otherwise, the mission fails, and I can't return to Blue Star. So I chose to stay silent. He crouched down. His slender fingers pinched my chin. He forced my face towards him, making me look into his eyes. Chen Huayan, this venerable asks you one last time. His voice was hoarse, but it was trembling. Don't you really want to say what she wants to hear? Of course I knew. She wanted to hear me say so wanted to hear me admit that my betrayal back then was wrong. Wanted to hear me tell him that those years were real, that the warmth wasn't fake. Pulling him out of the abyss of death wasn't for any other purpose. I looked into her eyes. A bitter smile twisted my lips, uglier than crying. A long silence. He waited for a long time. Finally, his expression turned completely cold. Fine. Since you won't speak, then never speak again. I looked at my own blood on the sword's tip. Time seemed to go back to the past. It was an era of snow disasters. Mountains and rivers were frozen. Rivers stopped flowing. Countless low-level cultivators and mortals froze to death. During that long winter, frozen corpses were everywhere on the roadside. Facing such a catastrophic era, everyone could barely save themselves. Back then, I had only been in this world for less than 3 days. According to the system's instructions, I found a crumbling thatched hut by the village path. The moment I pushed open the door, I saw him. A small figure curled up in the corner of the room, wrapped in a piece of tattered hemp cloth. He was so small that I could pick him up with one hand. Covered in frostbite and scars, his breath was so faint it was almost undetectable. When I crouched down and held him in my arms, he was as light as a withered leaf. Don't be afraid, I'll take you away. The little girl didn't react, but the moment I picked her up, her hand instinctively grabbed hold, clutching my clothes tightly, like a drowning person grabbing the last piece of driftwood. Later, I learned about her background. Her name was Luo Lingshuang. She was born without a mother. The villagers had driven her away. A 5-year-old child, in this cruel lower world harsher than the cultivation world, fought with stray dogs for food every day, slept in haystacks by the roadside. I don't know how he survived until the day I found him. Probably heaven wanted him to suffer a bit more. To support him, I went to the Xiantian sect to work as an outer disciple doing chores, sweeping floors, chopping wood, carrying spirit stone or cleaning alchemy furnaces, feeding spirit beasts. I did every kind of work. 12 hours a day. Except for sleeping, I was always working. The pay was pitifully little, barely enough to buy some coarse grains and cloth. But Luo Lingshuang grew up, from 5 years old to 10, from 10 to 15, becoming a graceful young lady. Her talent was excellent, much better than mine. I was noticed by an elder, promoted from a chore disciple to an outer disciple, and 10 years later, I entered the inner sect. She followed me into the Xiantian sect, becoming my junior sister. Those days were the best days of my 300 years in this world. My thoughts were pulled back to reality. The hateful life sword fell, but at the last moment, I noticed a detail. His hand holding the sword was trembling. The moment the hateful life sword pierced my body, there was a momentary emptiness in his eyes, but the next moment, it returned to ruthlessness. My body began to dissipate on this blood-soaked battlefield. Behind me, only the screams of the righteous army being slaughtered by demon cultivators remained. Before I lost my sight, the last image I saw was her back. Lonely, just like 300 years ago. That junior sister who stood on Hanshao Peak, waiting for me for an entire day and night. I'm so Those 3 words were never spoken. Time goes back to 300 years ago. My 3rd year after entering the Xiantian sect's inner sect. Back then, my cultivation was already at the late golden core stage, considered outstanding among my peers. Luo Lingshuang was faster than me. She joined later, but her talent crushed everyone else. In just a few years, she was already at the peak of golden core, showing signs of breaking through to the nascent soul stage. Everyone in the sect said she was a once-in-a-century genius. I was secretly happy, though on the surface, I still maintained the dignified demeanor of a senior brother. Inside, I was incredibly proud. After all, that was the little girl I raised. During that time, Luo Lingshuang was assigned as one of the guards of the sect's treasure pavilion. This was a sign of the sect's trust and importance in her. New mission released. Mission content: steal the Xiantian sect's supreme treasure, the Yuji Immortal Sword. Mission description: collaborate with demonic forces to create chaos, and take the opportunity to steal the Immortal Sword. This sword is essential for the host's later cultivation. Reward: cultivation directly promoted to nascent soul peak plus an immortal grade technique. Hun Tianju. Punishment: refusal means permanently unable to return to Blue Star. Are you kidding me? I am an inner disciple of the Xiantian sect, Luo Lingshuang's senior brother. You want me to be a traitor? System: I refuse. Refusal means permanently locking the transmigration state. No possibility of returning to Blue Star. Reminder: host, your guardian on Blue Star, Ms. Jiang Ishue, due to your disappearance, is in an extremely unstable mental state. She is currently posting missing person notices everywhere. He projected an image in my mind. My aunt stood on the street, her haggard face covered in tears, holding a stack of missing person notices with my photo on them. She was posting them one by one in the wind and snow, her hands red from cold, crying as she posted. At that moment, I was completely frozen. My aunt is my only family. She is only less than 10 years older than me, but after my parents died in a car accident, she raised me all by herself. She never married, never had her own children. All her efforts were poured into me. She worked 2 jobs to support my education, cooked and did laundry for me, stayed by my bedside all night when I was sick. She wasn't my mother, but she did more than a mother would. I transmigrated to this damn place, and I've been gone for decades. Although time flows differently on Blue Star, according to the system, a considerable amount of time has passed on Blue Star. My aunt must think I'm dead. She must think her only family has just disappeared from the world. I closed my eyes, blood surging through my body. After a long time, I opened my eyes. Accept mission. But I never thought those 4 words would push Luo Linshuang into the abyss. To ensure the plan was foolproof, I made the most meticulous arrangements. Those demon cultivators had long coveted the Xiantian sect's treasure. I gave them the identity of an insider. They gladly accepted. The only problem was Luo Lingshuang. She was one of the guards of the treasure pavilion. If she was there, with her strength and alertness, the demonic cultivators couldn't get in. I had to lure her away. So I wrote a letter saying, "Junior sister, your senior brother is at Hanshao Peak. I found 1,000-year-old ice spirit grass, which will greatly help you break through to the nascent soul stage. Your senior brother is busy with affairs today and can't get away. Go to Hanshao Peak first and wait for me. Before dark, I will definitely come." I knew she would go, because in this world, if there was one person she trusted without reservation, it was me, her senior brother. After all, I was the one who carried her out of that snowy wasteland. I was the one who gave her her name, taught her to read and write, taught her to cultivate. I was the one who, on the deep nights when she woke from nightmares, sat by her bed and said over and over, "Senior brother is here, don't be afraid." How could she not believe? There was another sentence in my letter. "Ling Shuang, your senior brother has a surprise for you." That day, she went to Hanshao Peak. She put on the light blue dress I had given her before. She only wore that dress on her happiest days, but she waited at the peak for an entire day, from sunrise to sunset, until the wind and snow picked up, and the sky darkened. She didn't get the senior brother she longed for. What came instead were the sect's enforcement elders. And a piece of news. Chen Huayan colluded with demonic cultivators to steal the sect's supreme treasure, the Yuji Immortal Sword, and defected from the Xiantian sect. Luo Linshuang, as a treasure pavilion guard, you abandoned your pot. You are suspected of being an accomplice. Luo Linshuang has a close relationship with Chen Huayan. They must have colluded long ago. Don't be fooled by his usual aloof demeanor. He probably had an affair with that person long ago. Everyone pointed fingers. She explained over and over, but no one believed her. Everyone accused her of being a traitor. The sect imprisoned her, extracted her spirit, and tortured her severely. In that dark, damp dungeon, her bones were broken, she was force-fed poison, and subjected to forbidden soul-searching techniques. But she still believed in her senior brother. During those nights of torture, she longed to see that figure she regarded as her light. But in the end, no one came to save her. And I, the instigator, was thousands of miles away, using the Yuji Immortal Sword, seized from the demonic cultivators, to frantically increase my own cultivation. Once the immortal sword was in hand, I turned around and killed all those demonic cultivators. The system was satisfied. In Luo Ling Shuang's 3rd year of imprisonment, she disappeared. She vanished from the dungeon. The sect searched the entire mountain, but couldn't find her. No one knew where she went, whether she was alive or dead. Until 300 years later, the Luoyang continent produced the first ever female demon lord at the heavenly venerable realm, and her name was Luo Lingshuang. She was ruthless. The first thing she did after leaving seclusion was to massacre the Xiantian sect. Tens of thousands of people in the entire sect, not a single survivor. Then she came to find me, and by then, with the system's help, I had also reached the heavenly venerable realm, established my own sect, becoming the only immortal venerable of the righteous alliance. The immortal and demonic paths were locked in a stalemate. We faced each other on the immortal devil battlefield, separated by thousands of troops and a sea of blood and hatred. 300 years without seeing each other. She had grown up. The little girl who used to chase me around the yard had become a demon lord. Her face is cold as frost, surrounded by demonic energy. Beneath her 300 years of hatred and killing intent, I could still recognize those eyes. The same eyes she opened when I first picked her up, in the blizzard. I found that I hadn't completely dissipated. More precisely, the system didn't send me away immediately. It gave me one last hour to say goodbye to this world. Final mission completed. Since the host's soul needs time to stabilize, the host will be granted 1 hour of fry time. After 1 hour, the host will return to Blue Star. During this time, the host exists as a residual soul, unable to interact with any living being. I floated in midair, a transparent observer, trapped in this world for the last hour. The immortal devil war ended. The Immortal Alliance suffered a crushing defeat. Most of the righteous cultivators were killed. The rest either surrendered or scattered. Luo Lingshuang left the battlefield alone, riding the wind. But she only went to one place, Hanshao Peak. That was the site of the Xiantian sect, once a magnificent and majestic sect, now reduced to ruins after her massacre. Weeds grew tall among the broken walls. The once ethereal immortal aura had turned into a dead silence. She stood at the cliff's edge. Below was a bottomless abyss, thick fog rolling, and by the cliff, there was an old pine tree. Its branches were strong dragons, its needles a lush green. In the midst of this ruin, it was the only living thing, because this tree was planted by me and her together. It was her first year in the Xiantian sect. Winter had just passed. The spring snow was melting. She picked up a pine nut on the mountain and ran to find me, her eyes shining brightly as she said, "Senior brother, let's plant a tree." I asked her why she wanted to plant a tree. Senior brother said pine trees are the toughest trees. Wind and snow can't crush them. Thunder and fire can't strike them down. Lingshuang wants to be as strong as a pine tree too. Oh cool. So we dug a hole by the cliff on Hanshao Peak, and buried the pine nut. She watered it very seriously, and pulled a red string from her pocket, tying it to a nearby stone, saying it was a wish string. I asked her what she wished for. She put her hands behind her back, her face slightly flushed. "I won't tell you." Then she whispered, so softly it was almost inaudible, "I wish senior brother will never leave Lingshuang. When Lingshuang grows up, she will definitely marry senior brother." 300 years later, the pine nut had grown into a towering tree, and the two people who planted it, one had become a world-destroying demon lord, the other, a dissipating residual soul. I watched Luo Lingshuang stand before that pine tree. She reached out and gently touched the rough bark. Then she slowly crouched down, crouching by the tree roots, wrapping her arms around her knees. Tears streamed down her cheeks in large drops, falling on the withered leaves. For 300 years, Demon Lord Luo Lingshuang had never shed a single tear in front of countless cultivators. She didn't cry when her spirit was extracted and bones were dug out in the Xiantian sect's dungeon. She didn't cry when she massacred the sect. She didn't cry when she killed me. But now, facing this silent old pine tree, she cried like a child. Like the way she cried at 5 years old, curled up in that thatched hut, waiting for someone who never came. I stood behind her. I reached out to pat her head, but my hand passed through her hair. I couldn't touch anything. "Chen Huayan, you lied to me." My residual soul spoke silently behind her. "I'm sorry, Lingshuang." But she couldn't hear me. No one could hear me. How I wanted to hug her. How I wanted to hold her in my arms like when she was little, and say over and over, "Senior brother is here. Don't be afraid." But I was no longer her senior brother. I was just a wisp of residual soul about to dissipate. The hour passed quickly. My residual soul began to become more transparent. Time to go. Before I completely dissipated, I took one last look at her. She was still crouching there, hugging her knees, like a wounded little beast, curled up under that old pine tree that held her most precious memories. Goodbye, Lingshuang. My consciousness sank into endless darkness, but Luo Lingshuang's Shitari didn't end under that pine tree. In a place I didn't know, in a timeline I couldn't see, she cried on Hanshao Peak for a long time. So long that the sky turned from dusk to deep night, and from deep night to dawn. After she finished crying, she stood up and wiped away her tears. Then she walked down the mountain. She went to the demon sect, summoned an elder. This elder was one of the people who had helped her escape the Xiantian sect's dungeon. Luo Lingshuang had always believed she escaped, because this elder had saved her for some purpose. But today, she decided to ask clearly, because one doubt had been stuck in her heart. Why would Chen Huayan collude with demonic cultivators to steal the immortal sword, and then later be conveniently rescued by the demonic path? Too coincidental. Too much to be a coincidence. When that elder was summoned before Luo Lingshuang, his face changed. She noticed, with her heavenly venerable perception, the sudden acceleration of the elder's heartbeat couldn't be hidden from her. This venerable asks you one thing. 300 years ago, who ordered you to rescue this venerable from the Xiantian sect's dungeon? Answering the demon lord, it was this subordinate's own decision. I thought the demon lord's talent was extraordinary. Liar. The elder knelt down, trembling all over like a sieve. His little tricks couldn't fool Luo Lingshuang's eyes. She didn't give him another chance to lie. The heavenly venerable's spiritual pressure directly crushed the elder's soul defense, plunging into the depths of his memories. Soul searching. The elder's memories unfolded before her eyes like a book. She saw it. She saw a young man in white, using his own blood, drop by drop, to form a seal. Text. Forcibly overriding this elder's consciousness, turning him into a puppet under his command. That young man's face was too familiar. Chen Huayan. She saw Chen Huayan, through this puppet, orchestrating a perfect prison break. Time, route, gaps in the formation, every detail was precise to the extreme. She saw even more, far more than she had imagined. She saw Chen Huayan, at the nascent soul stage, challenging a higher realm, fighting a peak transformation god ancient beast for 3 days and 3 nights. In the image, he was covered in blood, 6 ribs broken, his left arm almost torn off, blood from his forehead covering his entire face, his eyes barely able to open. But he still got up, again and again. Every time he was sent flying by that beast, he gritted his teeth and crawled out of the rubble, holding the Yuji immortal sword, staggering to his feet, like an unyielding, indestructible cockroach. The beast roared at him in fury, but Chen Huayan just spat out a mouthful of blood, a smile even tugging at the corner of his mouth. Is that all you've got? If I don't finish this soon, she'll find me. Her, who is she? Luo Lingshuang's fingernails dug into her palms. Of course she knew who it was. It was her, trapped deep in the ruins. The images continued to surge. She saw Chen Huayan collapse from exhaustion after killing the beast, lying in a pool of blood, unconscious for half a day. The first thing he did upon waking was to command the puppet to clean up all traces at the scene, leaving not a single one. She saw other things too. That time she was ambushed in a secret realm. Chen Huayan had infiltrated the secret realm 3 days early, using his true chi to destroy the key formation points of the ambush, turning that ambush into a false alarm. That ancient demonic technique manual she stumbled upon. Chen Huayan had spent 2 years, risking his life to retrieve it from a forbidden area, then had the puppet place it on her path. The heart demon tribulation she faced when advancing to the transformation god stage. Chen Huayan had used a divine sense avatar to infiltrate her heart demon space, taking the most fatal blow for her. The cost was his own soul cracking, almost dying on the spot. Scene after scene. 300 years. A full 300 years. He had watched over her in the shadows for 300 years. Every time she thought it was a blessing from heaven. Every time she thought she had survived a tribulation through her own efforts. Every opportunity she thought fate had finally favored her. It was all him. All Chen Huayan, the man she had hated for 300 years, cursed for 300 years, sworn to kill with her own hands, had been, in a place she couldn't see, paving the way for her with his own blood and life. Luo Lingshuang withdrew from the elder's soul memories. Her vision was blurry. Tears could no longer be held back. The images weren't over yet. The final scene. She saw the final immortal devil battle again. She saw her own hateful life. Sword pierced Chen Huayan's chest. Both were at the heavenly venerable realm. With Chen Huayan's strength, he could have easily blocked that sword, but he didn't dodge. It was as if he had thrown himself onto it. Even at the moment the sword tip pierced him, she clearly saw the curve of his lips. He was smiling. That smile wasn't mockery, not bitterness. It was relief. Lie, he had finally unloaded something heavy. Lie, he was saying, it's finally over. Luo Lingshuang's body collapsed to her knees like a broken puppet. She covered her face with both hands, her fingernails digging into her own skin. Blood drips down her fingers. But she feels no pain, because the pain in her heart has swallowed all sensation. He tremblingly pulled something from his storage pouch. The rain sword. It was the trophy he took from Chen Huayan. After Chen Huayan dissipated, this sword fell on the battlefield. He picked it up. He thought this sword was just a weapon, a symbol of betrayal. But now he found the seal on the sword had been lifted, because the one who set the seal was dead. After the seal dissipated, a faint remnant voice emerged from the sword spirit. Weak, like a candle in the wind, about to go out, but he heard it clearly. Well done, little junior sister. This is your senior brother's fate. It was Chen Huayan's voice, hoarse and weak, yet carrying the gentleness she once knew. Senior brother is leaving now, going to a very, very far away place. After I'm gone, you must take care of yourself. You'll have to walk the path ahead alone. I'm sorry, Lingshuang, for making you suffer. The voice faded. The sword spirit fell silent. Luo Lingshuang knelt on the ground, holding the rain sword with both hands, as if holding the most precious thing in the world. She cried, her whole body trembling, shoulders heaving violently, letting out broken sobs. 300 years. He waited 300 years for that apology, and finally heard it. But the one who said it was already gone. Senior brother, why didn't you tell me sooner? Lingshuang, don't say so Lingshuang, I want senior brother. Come back, please come back. But no one answered her. The cold wind howled over the ruins. The branches of that old pine rustled in the wind, as if gently saying in someone's place, don't cry, Lingshuang. At that moment, I suddenly opened my eyes. Before me was a dim ceiling. My body felt heavy as lead. I instinctively tried to sense the spiritual power in my body, but found my dantian completely empty. My meridians were like dried-up riverbeds, unable to sense even the faintest spiritual fluctuation. I had become immortal, but I tried moving my body, and found that while my cultivation was gone, my muscle strength and bone density seemed to remain. The foundation of body refinement had lasted 300 years. The tempering of the physical body from cultivation hadn't completely disappeared. The strangest thing was that I could faintly sense that blue star seemed to have the same spiritual energy as the fallen Sao continent, though very faint. I rolled out of bed, stumbled, and nearly fell. Everything in my sight felt too unreal. This was a rented room, about a dozen square meters, but not the room I knew. There were pink graffiti on the wall, a row of skincare products on the table, pink sheets and blankets, and a teddy bear doll on the windowsill. This was a girl's room. The rented room I lived in before my transmigration was no longer mine. In these 3 years, the landlord had probably taken it back and rented it to someone else. I looked out the window, tall buildings everywhere, heavy traffic. It was Blue Star. I was really back. A huge wave of emotion surged from my chest. 300 years. I struggled in that damned cultivation world for 300 years. From an 18-year-old youth, to a supreme master of the immortal sect, then to a corpse pierced by a demon sword. Now, I was finally back. I scanned the room, and on the nightstand, I saw a phone. The date on the screen made me freeze. On the nightstand, I saw a phone. The date on the screen made me freeze. 3 years. 3 years had passed on Blue Star. Silence filled my mind. The system, which had been noisy for 300 years, was also gone. I was about to go out, and grabbed a tissue to wipe my face. But the next moment, the bathroom door suddenly opened. A tsao of steam billowed out, followed by a figure wrapped in a towel. Pink hair, wet, draped over her shoulders. A delicate face emerged from the white mist. The girl was still drying her hair, her eyes lazy. Then she saw me. We stared at each other for about 3 seconds. A scream nearly burst my eardrums. The girl screamed and stepped back, one hand clutching her towel tightly, the other grabbing a bottle of body wash from the sink, and threw it at me. Pervert. Creep, how did you get in? Get out. The body wash bottle hit me square on the forehead, and it hurt so much I stumbled. Wait, I'm not a pervert. I can explain. Explain my ass. I'm calling the police. She actually pulled out her phone to dial. From outside, the neighbors' knocking came, bam bam bam. What's going on in there? Should I call the police? Damn it. I couldn't explain anymore. If I dawdled, I'd really be caught as a pervert. I turned, pushed open the window, and jumped out. This was the 3rd floor, about 8 or 9 meters high. For an ordinary person, that jump would kill or cripple them. But I found that as I landed, my knees bent slightly, and my feet planted firmly on the ground, without even a tremor. Sure enough, the body refinement foundation was still there. 300 years of heavenly sovereign body tempering wasn't for nothing. I didn't look back. I just ran. The wind stung my face, carrying the smell of Blue Star's car exhaust and city dust. Unpleasant, but familiar. I ran for over 10 minutes straight, and after making sure no one was chasing me, I stopped, bent over, and gasped for air. A billboard on the street played news I couldn't understand. People on the road hurried past, most with a tense, wary look on their faces. This wasn't normal. I remembered this street used to be full of people strolling around, but now wasn't the time to dwell on that, because I saw something. On a utility pole, a yellowed piece of paper, probably weathered by wind, sun, and rain. Its edges curled up, its color mostly faded, but the content was still readable. In the center was my photo. Below the photo, 4 words, missing person notice. Below that, a line of handwritten text, the handwriting crooked, as if the writer's hand was trembling. Huayan, your aunt is looking for you. Please contact if seen. scene, followed by a phone number. Signed, Jiang Ishui. I crouched under the utility pole, staring at that paper for a long time. So long that a passing auntie gave me a strange look. Auntie, I'm back. I'm finally back. I followed my memory and ran toward home. My aunt's neighborhood wasn't far from here, about 3 bot stops away. I used to walk this road to school every day. Couldn't get lost even with my eyes closed. When I reached the neighborhood gate, my heart was pounding so fast it felt like it would jump out of my throat. I entered the building, went upstairs, and stood before that door, so familiar in my memory. I took a deep breath and knocked, but the door was opened by a familiar door. I took a deep breath and knocked, but the door was opened by a strange man in his 40s. Who are you looking for? I used to lie here. Where did the original tenant go? A woman, about 30 years old? Oh, the previous tenant? Moved away long ago, about 2 years back. I rented it later. Do you know where she moved? No idea. I signed the contract with the landlord, never met her. The door closed. I stood in the hallway, stunned for a while. Don't panic. There's still the phone number. The number on the missing person notice. I went back to the tenant's door, knocked again. What now? The man's face showed impatience. So could I borrow your phone? Just one call. Real quick. The man hesitated, probably seeing my anxious face, not lie a bad guy, and handed me the phone. I dialed the number. The number you dialed is out of service. I dialed again. The number you dialed is out of service. I was frantic. I planned to go to the police station to track the household registration records. With my ID info, I should be able to find where she moved. But just as I was halfway there, the sky changed. Not like a cloudy day, but a strange black mist suddenly appeared in the sky, spreading like ink across the blue sky, extremely fast. Then people on the street started screaming and running in all directions. Demon beasts are coming. Run. Another spatial rift. Run to the subway station. It's safe underground. I stood on the street, watching the panicked crowd around me. The fleeing crowd, completely confused. Demon beasts? Spatial rifts? This is Blue Star. When did Blue Star have demon beasts? But the next second, I understood. A rift tore open in the black mist, not big, but enough for a tiger-like demon beast, nearly 2 stories tall, to crawl out. Its body was covered in black, armor-like scales, its eyes glowing with a ghostly green light, thick, viscous blood dripping from its huge fangs. I sensed its spiritual fluctuation. Below the golden core stage, probably just at the peak of Foundation establishment. But for ordinary people on Blue Star, this was an apocalyptic monster. It lunged at the fleeing crowd. At that moment, I saw 3 young people, 2 men and 1 woman, about 20 years old, running the slowest. They didn't even have time to look back. The tiger demon beast's giant claw came down. A spray of blood exploded. 3 young lives vanished before my eyes. Not even bones left. I clenched my fists, tried to mobilize the spiritual power in my body. Nothing. Couldn't even touch the threshold of the chi refining stage. But the sight of those 3 people's deaths was right before me. Soon, it would be my turn. Who cares if I have cultivation or not? I was once a celestial venerable. I took a step and charged forward. 300 years of combat instinct made me leap, and I punched the demon beast on the side of its neck. A dull thud followed. A huge recoil force traveled from the impact back to my arm, numbing my entire arm. But that demon beast was actually staggered by my punch, stumbling back 2 steps. It let out an unwilling roar, its green eyes staring at me, staggered, stumbling back 2 steps. It let out an unwilling roar, its green eyes fixed on me, as if unable to believe a mortal could hurt it. I was also a bit surprised. Though I had no cultivation, the strength of this body far exceeded my expectations. The inherited body refinement, though barely a tenth remained, was no joke. It came from a celestial venerable. The demon beast lunged again. I sidestepped, and at the same time grabbed a bare steel bar from the ruins of a building, about 1.2 meters long, as thick as an arm. I pulled it out. Though I had no spiritual power to infuse it, I had something else. Soul power is different from spiritual power. Soul power is the power of the primordial spirit. Though my cultivation had returned to 0, the framework of a celestial venerable's primordial spirit remained, and some residual soul power was still there. I channeled the remaining soul power into the steel bar. An ordinary piece of construction waste became a weapon emitting a faint silver glow in my hand. The demon beast sensed the danger, and let out an enraged roar. But just as I was about to act, a whistling wind came from behind me. Everyone, form formation. Tactical encirclement pattern 3. A group of people in black uniforms surged from both sides of the street, their movements well trained. I was surprised to find that they actually had faint spiritual power around the Foundation establishment level. The one in front, with pink hair tied in a high ponytail, wearing a tactical uniform, her delicate face full of seriousness and ferocity, was actually the girl from the rented room. No, right now, she was more like a cheetah ready to tear apart its enemy. In her hand, a faint purple light gathered. Her cultivation at the peak of Foundation establishment. We have to stop this beast here. Comrades, stop the beast. The citizens' lives depend on us. With her command, over a dozen black-clad figures released their spiritual power simultaneously, forming a formation, their combined spiritual power weaving into a net, trapping that tiger demon beast in the center. A fierce battle ensued. Some were injured, some were sent flying, but under the girl's command, they eventually killed the demon beast. The demon beast's body crashed to the ground, kicking up dust everywhere. The girl was panting heavily, sweat all over her forehead. Then, while cleaning up the scene, she saw me in the crowd, still holding that glowing steel bar. Our eyes met. Her face went from white to red, then from red to white. She was probably remembering coming out of the bathroom, only to be seen completely by a strange man. Without a word, she rushed over, grabbed my collar, and said, "Take him away. Put him in the car. Wait, I can explain. Shut up. Move." And so, I was shoved into a black van. From their mouths, I learned that these people belonged to the official Chinese organization, the Foundation Bureau. 3 years ago, the moment I transmigrated to the fallen Cao continent, Blue Star suddenly began a spiritual energy revival. The concentration of spiritual energy in the world surged dozens of times in the following months. A small portion of humans awakened spiritual power, gaining supernatural abilities. The authorities classified them by strength, soldier, general, commander, king, emperor, and god levels. Currently, the highest known level on Blue Star was D level, said to be only a handful globally. And that pink-haired girl, Gu Mengyao, was the captain of the Jianghai City Foundation Bureau, a peak general level superhuman in this city. The captain of the Jianghai City Foundation Bureau, a peak general level superhuman, considered outstanding in this city. At the same time, the spiritual energy revival brought side effects. Spatial rifts would occasionally appear in the sky, from which various mutated demon beasts descended. These beasts fed on spiritual energy and preyed on humans, bringing great disaster to Blue Star. The Foundation Bureau was established to deal with this situation. "So, who exactly are you?" Gu Mengyao sat across from me, arms crossed, her eyes wary. I used a set of words. "That rented room was mine before. 3 years ago, I was inexplicably teleported to another place, and only came back yesterday. When I returned, I found you living in my room. This really wasn't intentional." She clearly didn't believe me, but didn't immediately refute. "Teleported? Are you saying you're also an awakened?" "Not really. I don't have any supernatural fluctuation." That was true. I really had no spiritual power now. "Then how did you survive that demon beast earlier?" "That was a commander-level beast. Probably just good physical fitness." Gu Mengyao stared at me for a long time. Her intuition told her that this man was not simple, but she really couldn't detect any supernatural fluctuation from me. Finally, she didn't press further. "Alright, I'll let this slide for now. But you said you lost contact with your family?" "Det. My aunt's name is Jiang Ishue. 3 years ago, she lived in the old neighborhood in the south of the city. Now she's moved, and her phone is out of service. Can you help me find her whereabouts?" "I can try. In these years, due to demon beast disasters, many people have gone missing or died. The authorities have a search system, but I can't guarantee I'll find anything." "Thank you." She glanced at me, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, just snorted, and turned her face to the window. She was probably still angry about the rented room. I silently apologized in my heart. Gu Mengyao didn't report my existence, which surprised me a bit. Later, she explained to me, "In these years, some people who awakened their powers just want to lie a normal life, and don't want to be registered and conscripted by the authorities. Even though I'm a Foundation Bureau captain, I can understand that way of thinking. Besides, even if you were a threat to the city, I, as a peak general level, am confident I can handle it." If she knew that in another world, I was a celestial venerable, she probably wouldn't be so confident, but I didn't plan to tell her. Attracting official attention now would only cause trouble, and I just wanted to find my aunt. Gu Mengyao arranged for me to stay at a budget hotel, and got me a phone and a new number. I stared at that brand new phone, feeling like a lifetime had passed. I hadn't touched an electronic device in 300 years. The last time I used a phone was the day before my transmigration. That night, I ordered takeout, fried chicken and cola, planning to play a round of Delta Force, and maybe camp a bridge. Then that damn light anomaly happened, and I ended up in the cultivation world. I didn't get to eat the fried chicken or play Delta Force. 300 years had passed in a flash. Sitting on that hard hotel bed, I suddenly felt a sense of unreality. A dream of 300 years. Sitting on that hard hotel bed, I suddenly felt a sense of unreality. I used my phone to search the news. The screen was full of content about demon beast invasions, spiritual energy revival, and superhumans. This world had changed too much. 3 years ago, Blue Star was still an ordinary technological civilization planet. Now, it had become a strange mix of half cultivation, half apocalypse. I turned off my phone and lay down. Exhausted from the day, I fell into a deep sleep. At that moment, I seemed to have a dream. I saw Luo Lingshuang. She stood on a towering mountain peak, the peak of the demon realm, her center of power, the apex of the empire she had built. The night was ink, the stars brilliant, but their light reflected on her white hair, making her face look even paler. She stood there alone, with no subordinates, no attendants, nothing at all. I noticed she was holding something in her hand. It was the rain sword. She was clutching that sword, as if holding onto some obsession. Then she lowered her head, tears falling one by one, her lips murmuring something. I was woken up by the phone ringing. Gu Mingyao's voice came through. Chen Huayan. Her voice sounded a bit unnatural, hesitant, as if choosing her words. I found it. Your aunt moved to Suzhou 2 years ago. Suzhou was invaded by a large-scale demon beast attack a year ago. The entire city fell. Suzhou has now been classified as an S-level restricted zone by the authorities, completely occupied by high-level demon beasts. Communications are cut off. No survivor signals. Is she still alive? Currently, no. Is she still alive? Currently, there's no record of her survival, and no confirmed death record either. But honestly, the chances are low. So my hand holding the phone was trembling. Auntie, I fought for 300 years in that cultivation world, just to come back and see you. But I came back, and you. I put down the phone. I sat there for a very, very long time without moving. Memories flooded back like a torrent. When I was sick as a child, my aunt carried me and ran over a dozen blocks, until she found a clinic that was still open. Her clothes were soaked with sweat. Her arms holding me were trembling. Back then, she was only 17 or 18 herself, but she was already stubbornly acting like an adult. After school, she would always be waiting for me at the school gate, holding the sugar-roasted chestnuts I loved. In winter, she would warm my bed with a hot water bottle before I slept, saying a cold bed would ruin my sleep. The year of the college entrance exam, she waited outside the exam hall all day, not even eating lunch. She never said she was tired, never said it was hard. I knew how hard it was for her to raise me alone, an unmarried woman, raising a child who wasn't her own. She gave me the best years of her life. From outside the window, a piercing alarm sounded. An emergency notification popped up on my phone. Demon Beast Invasion Alert. Citizens, please immediately take shelter in underground air raid facilities. Again. Another demon beast. But I didn't move. Those instincts to take cover, rational judgment, the will to survive, were all overwhelmed by a more primal, violent emotion, anger. 300 years, I endured humiliation, overwhelmed by a more primal, violent emotion, anger. 300 years, I endured humiliation, stooped to any means, betrayed everyone, just to come back. But I came back, and my loved ones were gone, my home was gone, everything was gone. All that was left was a world full of demon beasts and ruins. I stood up and walked to the window. The cold wind rushed in, carrying the sounds of explosions and screams from afar. Below was a drop of over 20 meters. The hotel was on the 10th floor. I stood on the windowsill. Below was a chaotic street. Beasts were chasing fleeing crowds. But at that moment, I suddenly felt something strange. Something was surging inside me, like a river that had slept for ages, finally beginning to thaw. Threads of spiritual power, fine as silk, were automatically flowing from heaven and earth into my dantian. A glimmer of water appeared on that dry riverbed. Not much, but cultivation was indeed there. Qi refining stage, just one day. When I came back yesterday, my body was still purely mortal. Today, it started absorbing spiritual energy on its own, as if my former cultivation was slowly reviving. The dantian vessel of the heavenly sovereign realm was still there. The old cultivation path was still there. The comprehension of the Tao was still there. Now, I'm just refilling the water, and the speed far exceeds ordinary people. Though Qi refining spiritual power is insignificant, combined with my 300 years of Tao comprehension and techniques, it's enough. I leaped from the 10th floor. The moment I landed, spiritual power circulated through my legs, absorbing the impact force. Right in front of me was the beast pack chasing citizens. Dozens of gray wolf-shaped beasts, each the size of a calf, at the foundation establishment stage. I was at the foundation establishment stage. I condensed a transparent, almost illusory sword of spiritual power, using Qi refining spiritual power to drive the heavenly sovereign sword art. It felt like a small horse pulling a big cart, but the gap in techniques and Tao comprehension was enough to bridge the chasm in cultivation. As I made my first move, a silver-white sword aura streaked across the night sky, beautiful like a crescent blade strike. The sword aura swept across the dozens of gray wolf beasts, freezing them. Then they all split apart. the bodies of dozens of beasts crashed to the ground. One sword, all wiped out. A few citizens who hadn't made it to the subway station yet stood frozen in place, stunned, their mouths wide enough to fit an apple. One uncle even forgot he was fleeing, tripped, and fell flat on his face. But I didn't stop. More beasts surged from the sky rift. Wolf, snake, eagle, many types. But most were at the Foundation establishment stage. I charged at them like a madman. Every beast I killed, their essence souls were devoured by me. The spiritual energy in those souls flooded into my dantian, filling that massive vessel. My cultivation soared rapidly. It felt like a desert, dry for centuries, suddenly hit by a torrential rain. Every meridian greedily absorbed spiritual energy. I didn't know how many I killed. I only knew that when that night ended, my cultivation had stabilized at the peak of Foundation establishment. My clothes were soaked with beast blood, mixed with my own wounds. Blood flowed from me, fire burning in my eyes. Ant, wait for me. No matter where you are, I will find you. Over the next few weeks, I hunted beasts at a near-maddening pace. By day, I hunted on the city's edge. By night, I cultivated in deserted ruins. My cultivation kept rising. Early golden core, mid golden core, peak golden core. Every breakthrough was unbelievably smooth, like a path I had walked before. Walking it a second time, every step was precise. By the end of the third week, I had reached peak golden core, touching the threshold of nascent soul, equivalent to the martial level on Blue Star. I tried to avoid the Foundation Bureau, not wanting trouble. But what was coming finally arrived that evening. The sky over Jianghai City tore open again. But this rift was bigger than any before. Big enough to swallow an entire football field. Black mist churned like a boiling river. An unprecedented beast aura gushed from the rift. I stood 3 kilometers away, and still felt that bone-chilling pressure. Nascent soul? No, more than nascent soul. Peak nascent soul. Even leaning towards spirit transformation. A massive creature emerged from the rift. It was a giant python, pitch black like ink. Its scales reflected an eerie purple sheen in the light, thick as a city sewer pipe. Its length was endless, at least 100 meters. It coiled above Jianghai City. When its forked tongue flicked out, the temperature for miles around plummeted. Most terrifyingly, it spoke. This place has a strong human presence. Good. It spoke human language. It had developed intelligence. This was a true great beast, and behind it followed countless slightly weaker beasts. The Foundation Bureau mobilized, not just Gu Mingyao's Jianghai branch. Higher-ups even sent a martial-level enforcer, Ling Tian. Though Ling Tian was a young man, his eyes were deep. He had seen many battles. He radiated a metallic spiritual energy fluctuation. His ability manifested as a giant fire blade. He could even release spiritual pressure. Martial peak, equivalent to golden core peak. But facing this nether python, he was barely holding on. They fought for less than 10 minutes. Ling Tian was struck by the tail. He flew like a cannonball, crashing through 3 buildings. He stopped, spitting blood. He knelt in the rubble, face ashen. He was a marshal, but before a nascent soul great beast, he was lie paper. The others from the Foundation Bureau were worse. In this battle, over 100 ability users died on the spot. Some were even cut in half by the giant snake. The severely injured were countless. Where the hell is the headquarters backup? This is sending us to die. Where are the medical ability users? Xiao Li, he can't hold on. A blonde youth cried, holding a wounded girl in his arms. They were all enforcers of the Jianghai Foundation Bureau. The girl, covered in blood, was also his lover. Captain, the medical team is all dead. That wasn't just fear, it was despair. This isn't martial level, this is imperial level. Faced with this power, we're just going to die. Captain, maybe we should retreat. The youth wiped his tears, then showed a resolute expression. He tremblingly pulled out a lighter, lit a cigarette. Take Xiao Lin and fall back. Protect him. Captain, are you crazy? Comrades, other squads are still fighting. Behind us are millions of Jianghai citizens. Countless people. If we retreat, what happens to them? Anyone else not afraid of death, follow me. The expressions of those team members were equally unyielding. On the other side, Gu Mengyao was hit by the tail. She flew sideways for over 10 meters, crashing into an overturned bot. Unconscious, the python lazily lay there, its snake eyes full of amusement. To it, these humans were just ants to be crushed with a flick. Boring. Are humans in this world this weak? Killing them has no fun. But the next moment, it saw a man walk out from the shadows. Step by step, he walked before the nether python. His steps were slow, seemingly harmless. The dust on the ruins hadn't settled yet. Firelight lit my profile. The python lowered its head, staring at me. It could sense my cultivation, peak foundation establishment, an ant in its eyes. But deep in its soul, it felt a chill, as if carved into its sea of consciousness, making it feel I looked familiar. But how could a mere foundation establishment compare to its centuries of cultivation? Another one looking for death, I didn't speak. Spiritual power in my dantian spun rapidly, flowing along a technique path far beyond my current level. This was a secret art I created in my past life. The Yellow Spring Heavenly Sovereign's ultimate move, using soul power as a guide, and Heaven Earth spiritual energy as a blade, all condensed into one finger. One finger's strike, lie the Yellow Spring path, extinguishing all life. Using peak foundation establishment spiritual power to drive this secret art, was Lai using a bowl to hold a river. My body would suffer massive backlash. But could I land this strike? Because the key wasn't how much spiritual power I had, but how deep my understanding of the Tao was. 300 years of comprehension, plus the infusion from the system, that was enough. The nether python grew impatient. Its tail swung around, with enough force to crush a mountain into rubble. I dodged at the last moment. The tail grazed my clothes, smashing into the ground. The ground for 100 meters around collapsed into a deep pit. I flipped 3 times in the air, stabilizing myself. Before I even landed, my right hand extended its index finger. A faint blue light gathered at the fingertip. That light wasn't brilliant or dazzling, but deep, dark. Lie a ghostly flame burning in an abyss. The python's pupils contracted sharply. It sensed that tiny, almost negligible light contained enough power to destroy it. Impossible. With your foundation establishment, it couldn't finish. My finger struck, Yellow Spring finger. A deep blue beam shot from my fingertip. It made a sharp, nameless sound as it cut through the air. That sound wasn't Lai light moving. It was Lai space itself being torn. The beam was too fast for the eye to catch. The python's pupils reflected that light, and then its head split open. A torrent of black blood rained down Lai a waterfall. The massive python body lost control, falling from midair, crashing onto the city street, kicking up dust for hundreds of meters. A nascent soul great beast, destroyed with one finger. I landed, but my right arm trembled. This was the backlash from forcibly using a high-level technique. Many fine cracks appeared in my meridians. A trickle of blood seeped from my mouth. The surviving Foundation Bureau members were all stunned. Ling Tian crawled out of the rubble, covered in dust, his face full of disbelief. He had seen a young man, seemingly at the general level, kill with one finger a nascent soul great beast he couldn't last half a minute against. When did Jianghai City get someone like this? But before they could recover from the SOC, the sky tore open again. This time, the rift was bigger and deeper. The aura spilling from the rift made his blood run cold. Earth level, beast aura. A humanoid figure stepped out of the rift. Det stepped out, not crawled, not flew, not surged, but calmly, with an elegant, condescending demeanor. It was a beast with a humanoid body, male features, exquisitely eerie, skin pale as jade. But its pupils were vertical, golden snake eyes. It wore pitch-black armor. Behind it spread giant wings covered in deep purple scales, almost blotting out half the sky. Earth-level beast, Indra. I stood still, feeling that terrifying pressure descending from the sky. This level of beast had rarely appeared on Blue Star, and now it was in Little Jianghai City. Ling Tian's face wasn't just ashen anymore. It was deathly pale. He had fought countless battles, but never faced an Earth-level existence, because on Blue Star, an Earth-level ability user existed only one in all of China, and that one was in the north, fighting another Earth-level beast. In other words, Jianghai had no power to deal with this thing. Helicopters still circled overhead, sending live footage via satellite back to China's Foundation Bureau headquarters. The command room was dead silent. On the big screen, Indra's figure was Lai a demon descending. Earth level, another Earth level. Why is it appearing in Jianghai City? That's only a sea-level defense city. Contact the Northern Earth-level user. No, it's too late. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screen. Indra looked down at the city ruins below, and the humans trembling Lai ants in the rubble. It smiled. That smile carried pure contempt. That spiritual energy fluctuation earlier was somewhat interesting. Its gaze fell on me. You killed my vanguard. I clenched my fist. My right arm still ached from the Yellow Spring finger's backlash. The cracks in my meridians hadn't healed. I hadn't even reached nascent soul. Facing a spirit transformation level earth beast, my chances of victory were near zero. I could fully use my movement techniques to escape. Heavenly sovereign level movement comprehension, combined with foundation establishment spiritual power, could at least get me out of its tracking range. But I didn't leave. Because behind me were still people. There was the unconscious Gu Mengyao, the injured Ling Tian, and the Foundation Bureau members who hadn't evacuated. And in this city, countless ordinary people fleeing to underground shelters. But my aunt might still be alive. And, if I died here, who would go to Suzhou to find her? But if I fled, what about the people here? I was never a saint. On my 300-year cultivation path, I had cheated, betrayed, killed countless, done every vile deed. But this was Blue Star, the place that raised me. I couldn't bring myself to run while my own people were dying. Maybe because of what my aunt taught me as a child. Huayan, be a person with a conscience. Indra seemed displeased by my silence. Aunt, you humans are nothing special. I came to this world on the orders of the Supreme Existence. I thought there'd be some fun. But it's so boring. Supreme Existence? What does that mean? These beasts weren't randomly descending from dimensional rifts? They were commanded. By whom? I had no time to think about that, because Indra moved. Not just fast, it vanished from my sight. The next instant, it appeared beside me. I'm talking to you. A world-shattering force struck from my right. My body was hit by a giant hand. I shot out like a cannonball. Through countless buildings. Finally embedding into a wall. Into the fourth wall, I spat out a mouthful of blood. Several ribs in my chest were broken. Internal organs shifted. Meridians shattered. Is this all you've got? Indra's voice came from afar, full of disappointment. I pulled myself out of the wall's crater, staggering to my feet, my vision blurry, my mouth full of blood, but my mind was clear. Spirit transformation mid-stage. With my current cultivation and state, a frontal fight was impossible. But who said I had to fight head-on? I wiped the blood from my mouth and smiled. Indra raised an eyebrow. A dying man, still smiling. It didn't attack immediately. As if curious what this ant could do, I began burning my lifespan. This was a forbidden technique. Using life as a cost to burst out power far beyond my limits in a short time. Ordinary cultivators' burning lifespan could rise 1 or 2 minor realms. But I wasn't an ordinary cultivator. My Dantian vessel was heavenly sovereign level. My technique comprehension was heavenly sovereign level. I just lacked spiritual power, and burning lifespan could convert life force into spiritual power, trading life for power, life for life. In my Dantian, a scorching force erupted like a volcano, rising to golden core early stage, golden core mid, golden core peak, nascent soul early, still rising, nascent soul mid, nascent soul peak. That was the limit here. Any more wouldn't be burning lifespan, but self-destruction. Nascent soul peak against spirit transformation mid, a full major realm gap, plus 2 minor realms. It still looked like certain death. But it was enough. Enough for that one sword. I gathered all my spiritual power, concentrating it in my right hand. An illusory sword formed in my palm. The sword took shape in my hand. It looked like the rain sword, completely transparent, glowing with a faint silver light. This was my past life's life-bound sword art. Falling star. Sacrificing attack range. All power focused on one point. One sword strike, like a falling star, unyielding until destruction. Indra finally sensed something wrong. It felt the terrifying power in that illusory sword, not nascent soul-level power. What is this thing? Fear finally appeared on its face, but it was just surprise. As a spirit transformation old monster, how could it not have a trump card? But just as I was about to strike, the sky tore open, not lie before. The entire sky was ripped apart. Time on all of Blue Star seemed to freeze. A galaxy spanning the sky burst from the heavens. Starlight brilliant, like a silver waterfall, pouring down from the 9 skies. I would never forget that feeling. The pressure surging from that galaxy was vast enough to cause despair, terrifying enough to make the soul tremble. Everyone was pinned down, unable to move. Ling Tian fell to his knees, spitting blood. The unconscious Gu Mingyao's body convulsed uncontrollably. Ordinary people fainted 100 kilometers away. Even Indra, an Earth-level spirit transformation beast, showed a fear seeping from its bones, because it knew what level of power this was. Not spirit transformation, not void refining. It recognized this aura, the highest level of power in this universe. From the galaxy, a figure slowly walked out. At that moment, the helicopter signal from China's headquarters cut off, completely clean, as if severed by some invisible force. Not just China. All of Blue Star's networks, satellites, communications, electromagnetic signals went down. Every electronic screen turned to static. Every radar went blank. As if someone had pressed the mute button on the entire planet. And now, in the galaxy, a figure stepped out on starlight. He wore a dark magic-patterned robe. Black and red patterns flowed like burning blood on the fabric. Long hair white as snow, gleaming cold silver in the starlight. His face was pale to near transparency, exquisitely beyond mortal things. A crimson magic mark on his brow, like a third eye, or an eternal blooming blood flower. Cold, violent, mad, yet carrying a heartbreaking loneliness. He hovered in midair. The demonic aura around him dyed the sky for hundreds of miles a dark red. Those eyes scanned this strange steel jungle. Skyscrapers, roads, cars, lights, all completely foreign to him. Then his gaze dropped. He saw the ruins, the blood. He saw Indra. Finally, he saw me, covered in blood amidst the chaos. Me, swaying on my feet. Time seemed to stop at that moment. Our eyes met. Across 1,000 meters. Across 2 worlds of time and space. In his eyes were SOC, surprise, and an indescribable, complex emotion beyond any words. That emotion. I had seen it 300 years ago, when I first met him, when he was 5 years old, when I carried him out of that thatched hut. The first time he opened his eyes and looked at me, it was that same look. Lie in the abyss of despair, suddenly seeing a beam of light. Indra, under this destructive pressure, couldn't even stand. Its legs trembled. Its eyes full of fear. This fear, born from the depths of its soul, couldn't be resisted by cultivation or power, because this wasn't the same level of existence. It wanted to speak, to beg, to threaten, to run, anything. But it couldn't even open its mouth. Luo Lingshuang didn't even glance at it. From the moment she saw me, she never looked away. Then, a sword light spilled from the galaxy. Just a faint lie, the lightest brushstroke of ink. That sword light passed through space, through Indra's domain. Protective demonic aura, physical defenses, through everything. Indra's body stiffened, then shattered like a broken mirror. Not even ash remained. A spirit transformation earth-level beast, not even getting a direct glance from this mysterious woman, was erased like an ant. All the survivors, no one dared to speak. Not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't. The pressure was too immense. It was like the weight of the entire universe. And in that silence, I knew everything had changed. I couldn't speak, crushed by that heavenly lord's terrifying pressure. Even breathing became a luxury. Ling Tian lay on the ground. His bones creaked all over. He felt like he was being pressed into a meat patty. He struggled to lift his head. Through the blood, he lifted his head. Through his blood-caked eyes, he looked at the figure in the sky. What kind of monster is this? This is no longer Earth level. This surpassed every rank he knew. And Luo Lingshuang finally moved. She descended from the sky. I smelled her scent. Still that cold, biting fragrance, mixed with the chill of plum blossoms. 300 years. He hadn't changed at all. I collapsed weakly in the ruins, bloody and battered. I looked at him pathetically. I forced a smile. Lingshuang, she knelt down. The mighty demon lord, the heavenly lord, the demon venerable, knelt amidst the rubble and debris. She knelt before me. She frantically poured spiritual power into my body. Her hands were shaking. Her tears slid down her pale, cold face. A face that had shown no weakness in 300 years. 1 drop, 2 drops, then countless drops. Like a cry suppressed for far, far too long. Finally bursting its banks completely at that moment. Do you know how long I've searched for you? Let's go back to the Luoyun continent. Back to the moment my remnant soul dissipated. The moment my soul was sent back to Blue Star by the system. He cried on Han Xiaofeng for a whole day and night. He cried until his tears ran dry and his voice went hoarse. He was completely drained, like a hollow shell. The truth he saw in the elder's memories. And that weak apology within the rain sword. 2 blades, one after the other, pierced his heart. 300 years of hatred. 300 years of hatred collapsed in an instant, replaced by an emotion 1,000 times more painful than hatred. He personally killed the one who had protected him all along. Replaced by an emotion 1,000 times more painful than hatred. He personally killed the one who had always protected her. He personally killed the senior brother who pulled her from the abyss, and secretly watched over her for 300 years. Lingshuang, don't say so senior brother Lingshuang, but senior brother is gone. That gentle voice, that hand that always ruffled her hair, the one who would hold her in a blizzard and say, don't be afraid, that person was gone. Like a wisp of smoke. She thought of following him, holding the sword of hatred, pressing it against her own neck. 1 light cut, and it would all be over. She could go find her senior brother. But just at that moment, a voice echoed in her sea of consciousness. Aged, profound. A voice that seemed to span endless ages. He is not dead. Luo Lingshuang's hand trembled, and the sword nearly fell. He just went to another world. Do you want to find him? Dead, of course. No matter how far, no matter the end of the starry sea, I will find him, even if it costs me my life. So she made a crazy decision. She abandoned the demon realm. She abandoned the empire she had built with her own hands. Countless demonic cultivators who followed her, and the supreme authority of the Luoyun continent. She gave it all up. She only wanted to find Chen Huayan. With her cultivation at the heavenly lord level, she tore through the dimensional barrier of the Luoyun continent, and stepped into the boundless starry sea. But the starry sea was vast and infinite. The worlds were as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, immeasurable. How could she search? No direction, no clues, only a vague message left by that voice. Follow the thread of karma. The thread of karma, between her and Chen Huayan. The thread of karma. The bond of 300 years between her and Chen Huayan formed an extremely faint thread of karma crossing dimensions. A heavenly lord like her could barely sense the direction of this thread, so she chased. World after world, she chased. Each dimensional crossing in the starry sea was accompanied by terrifying temporal storms. That power could tear apart the flesh and soul of even a mighty cultivator. Even a heavenly lord like her was not spared. During the first crossing, her right arm was torn apart by the temporal storm. Blood turned into a red mist in the void. She gritted her teeth and reattached her broken arm. She continued forward. During the second crossing, she mistakenly entered a barren world, and was seen as an invader by that world's heavenly will, suffering a devastating rejection. Heavenly tribulation descended, ninefold thunder punishment. She endured and blocked it. The cost was a third of her meridians shattered. The third, fourth, fifth time. Countless times. Each crossing was a gamble with her life. In a dimension called Chaotic Star Sea, she was ambushed by 3 ancient heavenly lord-level experts. The rules of that dimension were extremely cruel. Survival of the fittest was the only law. She fought 3 heavenly lords alone. The battle lasted 7 days and 7 nights. She won, but she was nearly half dead. Her demonic patterns shattered. Her white hair stained red with blood. Her magnificent demon lord battle robe was tattered beyond recognition. She floated there in the void of the chaotic star sea, covered in wounds, her consciousness fading. But she did not stop, because that thread of karma was still faintly, barely pulling her along, in a direction, an increasingly distant direction. She kept going. One dimension after another. Time within the temporal storms was distorted. Perhaps only a few days had passed on Blue Star, but the time she experienced was a full 1,000 years. She traveled alone through the endless starry sea and dimensions for 1,000 years. In that 1,000 years, her cultivation, through countless life and death battles, was honed to the limit of the heavenly lord realm. In that 1,000 years, her appearance hadn't changed at all, but the light in her eyes had changed. No longer hatred, no longer madness, but a nearly obsessive fixation. Find him. She must find him, no matter the cost. On a certain day of that 1,000th year, the thread of karma suddenly became strong, so strong that her entire soul trembled. She tore open the final dimensional barrier, and saw a blue planet. She sensed a familiar aura that made her want to cry. Then she saw him, bathed in blood in those ruins, at death's door, facing an earth-level spirit transformation beast. He could have run away at any time, but he stood there like a fool, ready to fight to the death, just like before. Always the same, always pushing himself to the brink of death. At that moment, the tears she had held back for 1,000 years finally burst forth. Senior brother, why did you lie to Ling Shuang? Please don't leave. Ling Shuang doesn't want to answer him, but I couldn't speak. My body couldn't hold on anymore. Indra's strike shattered most of my internal organs, coupled with the backlash of burning my lifespan. At this moment, I was like a lamp. Coupled with the backlash of burning my lifespan. At this moment, I was like an oil lamp about to burn out. My consciousness was blurring, my vision fading. The last thing I saw was her reddened eyes and the center of her brow, that crimson demonic pattern. After the live broadcast signal was restored, everyone only knew that the Earth-level beast was instantly slain by a mysterious force. Of the Foundation Bureau members still alive at the scene, both the mysterious youth and the white-haired woman had vanished. Ling Tian climbed to his feet, trembling all over, staring at the already healed rift in the sky. His lips trembled for a long time, before he could squeeze out a sentence. What kind of monster was that? I was woken up by warm liquid dripping onto my face. I opened my eyes. Dim light, a wooden ceiling. The air had a fresh scent of grass and trees, mixed with a cold plum blossom fragrance I knew well. I turned my head. My whole body ached. Bones, organs, meridians, everything hurt. But at least I was alive. Then I saw her. Luo Ling Shuang was lying beside me, her head resting on the edge of the bed, her white hair scattered all over the bed, contrasting with her pale face. She was asleep, tear stains still fresh on her face, the look of someone who cried herself to exhaustion. Her hand, slender and almost translucent white, was clenched tightly, clutching my sleeve. Clutching it so tightly, as if afraid I would disappear again if she let go. I watched her for a long time, so long that the light outside the window shifted from dim to bright. This was a small wooden cabin. The walls were built from logs. It had a window, a bed, a simple structure. It had a window, a bed, and a simple table. Outside the window was a dense forest. I could hear birdsong and the sound of a she trim. Far from the city, far from everything, she must have conjured it, with her heavenly lord abilities. Conjuring a small wooden cabin out of thin air was no big deal. I tried to sense my own body. The little cultivation I had recovered from burning my lifespan was all spent in the fight against Indra. Now I was back to being a low-level cultivator, but Blue Star's spiritual energy was slowly seeping into my body, nourishing my damaged meridians and organs. It was slow, but but it was recovering. I looked down at Luo Lingshuang. Her demonic patterned robe had many tears, not from the fight with Indra, more lie signs of wear from long travel in harsh environments. Her hands had several healed scars. How could a heavenly lord cultivator have healed scars? Unless those wounds were so severe that even a heavenly lord's regenerative power couldn't erase them completely. I didn't know what she had been through, but just those scars were enough to make me afraid to imagine. She woke up. She must have felt me watching her. Her eyelashes fluttered. She slowly opened her eyes and met my gaze. We just looked at each other in silence. Then she suddenly sat up, flustered. The mighty heavenly lord, the demon venerable, now blushing, panicked, not knowing where to put her hands. You're awake. Are you hungry? Ling Shuang's body froze, as if she was petrified. It took a while before she slowly turned her head. Ling Shuang's body froze, as if she was petrified. It took a while before she slowly turned her head. Tears glistened in her eyes. You know everything. She didn't speak. She just slowly crouched down, crouched by my bedside, buried her face in her arms. Her shoulders were shaking. It's hard to say. Ling Shuang was wrong. Ling Shuang shouldn't have hated senior brother. Ling Shuang killed senior brother. Ling Shuang deserves to die. I reached out and placed my hand on her head. Her body trembled, then froze. As if this touch, the feeling of this hand on her head, awakened some distant memory. 300 years ago, every time she woke up crying from a nightmare, I would put my hand on her head like this, and say, "Don't be afraid, senior brother is here." Now, 300 years had passed. My hand was still in the same place. She cried, from muffled sobs to uncontrollable wailing. A full 1300 years of grievance, regret, longing, and fear, all poured out in that moment. I didn't say anything. I just stroked her hair, over and over. Just lie before. She cried for a very, very long time. So long that the sun outside the window slowly set. When she finally cried herself out, and looked up at me with swollen eyes, my sleeve was soaked through with her tears. Senior brother. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I couldn't. Some things can't be said until the very end. Was it that thing called the system? How do you know about the system? Did you see it during the soul search? How do you know about the system? When I did the soul search, I saw some of that elder's memories. There were scenes of you talking to something invisible. I couldn't see that thing, but I could feel you receiving some kind of command. Det. The system. The thing that threw me onto the Luoyun continent. It gave me missions. If I completed the missions, I could return to Blue Star, return to my world. All the missions, including betraying the sect, allying with the demonic path, stealing the immortal sword, and even dying by your hand in the end. It was all arranged by it. Then what about the things you did for Ling Shuang? Protecting Ling Shuang, giving Ling Shuang opportunities. Those weren't arranged by the system. Those were my own choices, every single time. Her tears were about to fall again. I quickly added, "Don't cry anymore. If you cry more, I won't have any clothes left to change into." She let out a small laugh. Halfway through, she choked it back, turning into a strange expression, half crying, half laughing. Really ugly, but also really beautiful. After that, we talked a lot. I told her everything. The system, the crossing, Blue Star, Auntie. Everything. She listened quietly, without interrupting. After she finished listening, she was silent for a long time. Then she said something that surprised me. That voice that guided Ling Shuang to find you. What if it's also part of this scheme? What do you mean? Ling Shuang traveled through the Starry Sea for 1,000 years. Traveled for 1,000 years. Each time she tore a dimensional barrier, it consumed a huge amount of power. And each time a dimension was torn, the barrier between the two worlds became thinner. If there is something that wanted to use Ling Shuang to open a passage between two worlds, that voice would be the perfect bait. A chill ran down my spine. What she said made sense. Too much sense. That mysterious voice that guided her to find me, ancient and profound, seeming to come from a distant age. If it wasn't giving directions out of kindness, but guiding her with a purpose. What was the purpose? To make Luo Ling Shuang, a heavenly lord, keep tearing dimensional barriers. To open a passage for some entity to descend upon Blue Star. This speculation sent a chill through my entire body. But now wasn't the time to investigate this. The most important thing now was to find Auntie. I told Luo Ling Shuang the situation. She said one thing. When Ling Shuang first arrived on Blue Star, she scanned thousands of miles with her divine sense. That Sioux city you mentioned. The surface is indeed occupied by beasts, but there are human auras underground. They're still alive? Are you sure? Det. Although it's isolated by some kind of spiritual barrier, Ling Shuang's divine sense can penetrate it. At least 1,000 people are underground. Whether your aunt is among them, Ling Shuang can't tell. But since there are survivors, there is hope. Hope. At that moment, those two words were more effective than any miracle drug. Over the next few months, I stayed in that small cabin, recovering and cultivating. Ling Shuang's cultivation was suppressed to the soul transformation realm by Blue Star's heavenly will. She used her divine sense to shield 100 miles around. No living creature could enter this area. The merciless demon empress of the demon realm had now become a little wife taking care of her mortal husband. Because I was indeed almost immortal now, she cooked for me every day, trying different things, even though she couldn't cook at all. Everything she made was basically a culinary disaster, but she wouldn't let me say it was bad. She changed my bandages, even though her hand strength wasn't very well controlled. One wrong move and she'd tighten the gauze so much I'd wince in pain. She stayed by my side while I cultivated. Even though she couldn't do anything, she just had to be there, just sitting beside me, sitting there for an entire day. Sometimes I'd secretly watch her. When she thought I wasn't looking, she'd reach out and touch my hair, then quickly pull her hand back, with a stiff expression that said, I did nothing. This 1,300-year-old demon lord was really adorable. Days passed like this. Blue Star's spiritual energy density far exceeded my expectations. My body was constantly absorbing spiritual energy. My cultivation steadily climbed. By the third month, I had reached the peak of the Golden Core realm, equivalent to a martial-level Esper on Blue Star. The recovery speed was incredibly fast. After all, I had the vessel of a heavenly lord. I just needed to fill it with spiritual energy. My body was also mostly healed. It was time to set out. Sioux City was about 800 kilometers from Jianghai City. It used to be a prosperous coastal city. About 800 kilometers from Jianghai City. It used to be a prosperous coastal city, with a population of over 1 million. Now it was a dead city. Luo Lingshuang and I looked down from the sky. The entire city was covered in beast lairs. The outer walls of skyscrapers were covered in black, fungal-like growths. The streets were piled with abandoned vehicles and unknown remains. The air was thick with a foul stench of decay and demonic energy. Occasionally, we could see beasts roaming the ruins. Martial level, king level, all kinds. But they were all nothing before Luo Lingshuang. Every beast we encountered on the way, whether it was a mutated giant bear at the martial level, or an abyssal demon at the king level, was all wiped out with a single flick of her finger. When we reached the core area of Sioux City, she finally had a clearer sense. Underground. 800 meters down, there is a space isolated by spiritual power. We directly broke through the ground and drilled down. 800 meters underground was a vast, man-made space. A modified, giant underground laboratory. The lights were dim, but I could see many simple shelters and living areas. And people. Over 1,000 people. They looked at us with terrified eyes. Me and Luo Lingshuang, descending from the hole in the ceiling. Especially Luo Lingshuang. In her dark, demonic patterned robe, with hair as white as snow, and the crimson demonic pattern on her forehead. To these ordinary people, she looked no different from an ancient demon or monster. Esper. Intruders. Full alert. A man in his 30s rushed to the front. He was wearing a uniform so dirty its original color was unrecognizable. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. A faint spiritual light flickered in his hand. Martial level spiritual light. Martial level Esper Xiao Wenyuan. He used to be a police officer. After the beast invasion, he awakened the spiritual isolation talent. It was his talent that isolated this entire underground city from the surface, allowing over 1,000 survivors to evade the beast's search. But the cost was a massive consumption of spiritual energy. He looked extremely weak right now. His face was pale. Clearly, his spiritual energy was nearly depleted. We're not enemies. Who are you? How did you get in? My name is Chen Huayan. I'm looking for someone. My aunt, Jiang Ishue. She might be among you. Xiao Wenyuan was stunned. Jiang Ishue? You mean that lady who's always asking about her missing nephew? My heart skipped a beat. She's here. My aunt is alive. Take me to her. Wait a moment. How did you get through my spiritual isolation? Xiao Wenyuan's eyes were fixed on Luo Lingshuang. Even though she had disguised and suppressed her cultivation to the nascent soul realm, which was the level of a king-level Esper, Xiao Wenyuan still felt an indescribable pressure. His instincts were telling him, this woman was not simple, far from just being a king level, because she was strong. I answered simply. Xiao Wenyuan was silent for a few seconds. In the end, he didn't ask any further. He led us through the tunnels of the underground city. After many twists and turns, we arrived at a small room in a corner. It's here. I took a deep breath. I pushed open the door. The room was very small, just a simple bed and a chair. A woman was sitting on the bed. She was Just a simple bed and a chair. A woman was sitting on the bed. She had lost so much weight. So much, but I recognized those eyes. From childhood to adulthood, every morning when she called me to get up, every night when she tucked me in, every time she went to a parent-teacher meeting, it was always these eyes looking at me and smiling. Auntie, she looked up. The moment she saw me, her entire body trembled. Why, Huayan? Is it me, Auntie? I'm back. She was stunned for several seconds, then she suddenly lunged from the bed, threw herself into my arms and wailed. You're back. You're alive. Where have you been? Auntie has been looking for you for 3 years. I thought you were gone. She cried and pounded my chest, not very hard, but each hit struck my heart. I'm sorry, Auntie. I'm sorry. Behind me, Luo Lingshuang stood quietly, watching this scene. Her eyes also reddened. Later, after Auntie had calmed down, I introduced Luo Lingshuang to her. Auntie, this is Lingshuang. She is my Dao companion. Oh, no, girlfriend. Luo Lingshuang's eyes widened. What is a girlfriend? But she still knew what a Dao partner meant. No, when did she ever agree to that bad senior brother? But in front of his aunt, he couldn't refute it. Aunt took Luo Lingshuang's hand, looked her up and down for a long time. Then, with red eyes, she smiled. You're really beautiful. Huayan is lucky. Luo Lingshuang's face turned red. The mighty demon lord of the demon realm. Luo Lingshuang's face turned red. The mighty demon lord of the demon realm was blushing from being praised by a mortal ant. That girl, Aunt was stunned for a moment. Then she laughed out loud. Good child. I watched this scene from the side. My heart felt warm. This was probably the warmest moment in 300 years. Aunt, you're safe. But the 1,000 survivors in Suzhou couldn't stay underground forever. Xiao Wenyuan's spiritual energy was nearly depleted. His isolation talent could disappear at any moment. Once the isolation is lost, the beasts on the surface will swarm in. We must clear the beasts from Suzhou. Leave this to me and Luo Lingshuang. Luo Lingshuang suppressed her cultivation to the nascent soul level. Any higher would attract unnecessary attention. Even so, the beasts in Suzhou were nothing but chickens and dogs before her. I fought alongside her. It took us 3 days to clear all the beasts on Suzhou's surface. Hundreds of them, big and small. Even the king-level beast entrenched in the city center was slain by our combined efforts. Xiao Wenyuan watched from afar. His mouth opened and closed, opened and closed. What kind of monsters are these two people? After the purge, I contacted Gu Mengyao. Suzhou is safe. There are over 1,000 survivors who need to be evacuated. There was silence on the other end of the phone for several seconds. What? You said Suzhou? The Suzhou that was designated an S-level restricted zone? Are you joking? There are at least 3 royal-level beasts there. The higher-ups don't even dare to send people to deal with it. Just come pick them up. A long silence. Then a sigh. All right, I'll send cars over. When Gu Mengyao came to pick them up, she brought 20 military trucks. She saw Luo Lingshuang, stared for a long time. Then her gaze turned subtle. This woman with white hair and demonic markings, that suffocating pressure, matched the description of the mysterious woman who appeared over Jianghai City that day. As Ling Tian described, Gu Mengyao didn't call it out, but the way she looked at me changed, from curiosity to scrutiny. What exactly is the background of this man and this woman? I told her to keep our existence a secret. She agreed. The 1,000 survivors were safely transferred to Jianghai City. I rented a house in Jianghai City to settle my aunt down. On the first day my aunt moved into the new house, she sat me and Luo Lingshuang down, and gave us a long list of instructions. Be careful. Don't always be fighting. Eat well. Don't stay up late. Then she looked at me, then at Luo Lingshuang. Huayan, this girl is really good to you. You can't let her down. Hurry up and get the important things done. What important things? What else? Get married. I almost spat out my water. Luo Lingshuang was even more dramatic. She stood up. Her face was red down to her neck. With me, that. She stammered for a long time, without saying a complete sentence. A 1,300-year-old demon lord being urged to marry by a mortal ant, urged to the point of incoherence. I held back my laughter, not daring to laugh out loud. In the days that followed, Luo Lingshuang and I lived in Jianghai City. Dare to laugh out loud? In the days that followed, Luo Lingshuang and I settled down in Jianghai City. She learned to use a phone, though she always mixed up WeChat and the camera. She learned to use a washing machine. The first time, she used a whole bottle of detergent. Foam overflowed from the washing machine, flooding half the balcony. She also learned to watch TV. Her favorite show was Animal World, because those little beasts were so stupid. Sometimes, at night, she would sneak up to me, when she thought I was asleep, and gently place a kiss on my cheek, then quickly pull back, acting like nothing happened. But she didn't know I was always awake. After 1,300 years of longing, she was still so cautious, as if afraid of scaring away something precious. The peaceful days didn't last long. The spiritual energy recovery was accelerating. Spiritual veins across Blue Star seemed to have had their switches turned on, frantically gushing out spiritual energy. Heavenly anomalies occurred frequently, colorful clouds covering the sun. Spiritual springs emerged, earth veins cracked, scenes that only appeared in ancient times. One after another, they emerged. Ancient cultivators, hidden for millennia, came out of seclusion. Kunlun Mountain, Dragon Tiger Mountain, Zhongnan Mountain. These legendary cultivation holy lands suddenly produced a large number of reclusive masters. Most of them were of righteous cultivation, ranging from nascent soul to unity. But there was also a batch sealed deep within Blue Star's earth veins. Ancient demonic cultivators who awakened with them. They were existences sealed by the righteous path in ancient times. Now, the seals were loosening due to the surge in spiritual energy. The first thing they did upon seeing the light of day again was to seize spiritual veins and enslave mortals. The official Foundation Bureau. In front of these true cultivators. In front of true cultivators, they were lie paper. A demonic cultivator calling himself the blood-robed ancestor, at the void refining stage, struck first. He occupied a spiritual vein near Jianghai City, and slaughtered the Foundation Bureau team stationed there. Gu Mengyao and Xiao Wenyuan were severely injured. Xiao Wenyuan fought desperately to cover their retreat, and lost an arm himself. When the news came, Luo Lingshuang and I were having dinner. My aunt had made braised pork ribs. I put down my chopsticks. Luo Lingshuang also put down her chopsticks. My aunt called from behind, "You haven't finished eating." "Sorry, aunt. The ribs can wait until we get back." When we arrived at the spiritual veins location, the blood-robed ancestor was sitting cross-legged above it, absorbing spiritual energy. Scattered around him were the bodies of over a dozen Foundation Bureau members. Young faces, twisted expressions. They must have suffered greatly before death. The blood-robed ancestor sensed our arrival. He opened his eyes. He looked at me, sensing my peak golden core spiritual energy fluctuation. Then he looked at Luo Lingshuang. "Strong demonic aura on you." He revealed a playful smile. "Little girl, you also cultivate the demonic path?" He stood up. His blood-red robe rustled loudly in the night wind. The pressure of the void refining stage was released overwhelmingly. "Kneel and acknowledge this master as your lord, and I will spare your life." Luo Lingshuang's face was expressionless. She glanced at him. Just one glance. Then she said one word, "Die." She didn't make a move. She didn't even release any visible technique or spell. She just released a wisp of true heavenly sovereign level demon lord pressure. The blood-robed ancestor's smile froze on his face. That wisp of true heavenly sovereign level demon lord pressure. The blood-robed ancestor's smile froze on his face. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. He fell to his knees with a thud. His Tao heart shattered directly under that pressure. A void refining stage cultivator before a heavenly sovereign stage doesn't even have the right to look up. Who are you?" He couldn't even speak a complete sentence. Luo Lingshuang pointed a finger. The blood-robed ancestor's body, along with his primordial spirit, turned to powder, dispersing in the night wind. Clean and efficient, no loose ends left. I watched this from the side, as expected of the demon lord, my junior sister. But Luo Lingshuang pouted, seeming dissatisfied with that title. "Oh, right. As expected of my wife." She pinched me hard, then proudly took my arm. After this battle, Luo Lingshuang and I took the opportunity to clean up the blood-robed ancestor's remaining forces. Those ancient demonic cultivators who awakened with him were either destroyed, or knelt and surrendered. And in the process of constantly hunting beasts and absorbing spiritual vein energy, my cultivation had recovered to the peak of nascent soul. Gu Mengyao and Xiao Wenyuan witnessed the citywide purge firsthand. Xiao Wenyuan's broken arm was casually reattached by Luo Lingshuang. She used a bone setting technique that was extremely common in the falling Cao continent, leaving Xiao Wenyuan dumbfounded. Gu Mengyao finally couldn't help but ask that question. "Who exactly are you people?" I looked at Luo Lingshuang. She glanced back at me, giving silent permission. So I gave Gu Mengyao and Xiao Wenyang a general explanation, omitting too many details, only saying that I came from another cultivation world, with a cultivation level far beyond Blue Star's ranking system. Luo Lingshuang's eyes, their expressions were lie they'd seen a ghost. In the end, Gu Mengyao didn't report it. Instead, she reached a private agreement with me. She would cover our existence at the official level, and I would handle threats that the Foundation Bureau couldn't deal with. Xiao Wenyuan became one of the few trustworthy comrades I had on Blue Star. This guy, though not high in cultivation, was upright and reliable. I began to secretly guide his cultivation. But some things, you can't keep a low profile about even if you want to. A few days later, an old man came to our door. White hair, white beard, an immortal aura. His spiritual energy fluctuation was at the harmony stage. One of the strongest cultivators on Blue Star, the Kunlun Elder. He was polite, but direct. "This old man is not here to visit. I am here to warn you." He looked at Luo Lingshuang, his gaze filled with deep concern. "Outsider." Your existence is accelerating the change of this world's heavenly Tao. This is not a good thing. It is a sign that Blue Star's heavenly Tao itself is weakening. If you do not leave this world, the day the heavenly Tao collapses, all living things will. Luo Lingshuang looked at him coldly, without responding. I stepped between them. Senior, give us some time. I will investigate the cause. The Kunlun elder sighed. This old man has lived for 3,000 years. Never have I seen the heavenly Tao so fragile. If you do not find the truth soon, all living things in this world will be buried with it. He finished speaking and turned to leave. Luo Lingshuang and I exchanged a glance. It seemed a greater storm was still ahead. Less than 3 days after the Kunlun elder left, trouble came. From the earth veins of Changbai Mountain, a terrifying demonic aura shot up into the sky, melting all the snow within 100 miles. The ancient guardian spirit beast nurtured by Blue Star's heavenly Tao, the nine-tailed fox, awakened. She took human form, a stunningly beautiful woman. 9 silver-white tails spread behind her lie a fen. At the peak of Harmony stage, just below Heavenly Sovereign, she sensed Luo Lingshuang's aura and appeared directly. Her purpose was not to provoke, but to question. Outsider. Your existence is eroding the foundation of this world's heavenly Tao. As the guardian spirit beast of Blue Star, I will not stand idly by. A great battle was inevitable. The nine-tailed fox was extremely powerful. Her illusions were unpredictable and strange. Even though Luo Lingshuang's cultivation was suppressed to the void refining stage by Blue Star's heavenly Tao, her heavenly sovereign level foundation and experience still far exceeded ordinary people. Their battle tore apart the sky for 100 miles. I fought from the side, specifically countering the nine-tailed fox's illusions. My heavenly sovereign-level primordial spirit perception allowed me to clearly distinguish truth from falsehood. During the fight, I noticed the nine-tailed fox had no killing intent. Her attacks all held back. It felt more lie-testing and warning. I called for Luo Lingshuang to stop. Wait, she doesn't mean to kill you. Luo Lingshuang frowned but withdrew her hand. The nine-tailed fox panted. Her silver tails drooped slightly. Indeed, this lord just wanted to see how much weight this outsider carries. Then something more troublesome came. The ancient Taopai in the northwestern desert also awakened. At the unity stage, its instinct was to devour everything. It devoured the spiritual veins of several small cities along the way, heading straight for Luo Lingshuang's aura. Luo Lingshuang and I joined forces to stop it. This battle was far more brutal than the one with the nine-tailed fox. The Taotai was a pure combat beast, the kind that doesn't listen to reason. In the end, I communicated with it using my heavenly sovereign Tao rhythm, and managed to calm it down. Both ancient beasts were guardians nurtured by Blue Star's heavenly Tao. They didn't awaken to attack Luo Lingshuang. They sensed that Blue Star's heavenly Tao was being. They didn't awaken to attack Luo Lingshuang. They sensed that Blue Star's heavenly Tao was being eroded by some external force, and instinctively saw Luo Lingshuang as a threat. The nine-tailed fox told me a crucial piece of information, that Blue Star's heavenly Tao wasn't naturally weakening. It was being drained. Every time a dimensional rift appeared, it took away a part of Blue Star's heavenly Tao's origin. And the time these rifts first appeared, she looked at me. It was exactly 3 years ago. 3 years ago, the moment I crossed over. Luo Lingshuang and I looked at each other. Both our faces were grim. The crossing. The system. The missions, Luo Lingshuang's 1,000-year search, all the seemingly coincidental events strung together, revealed a terrifying outline. That system was never just an auxiliary tool. It used me, and it used Luo Lingshuang. Every time it tore through dimensional barriers, it was opening a passage for some entity to descend upon Blue Star. I told Luo Lingshuang my deduction. She was silent for a long time. That voice that guided Lingshuang to find you. What if it was also part of the system? The answer was on the verge of being revealed. I found the answer in a spiritual eye at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. A deliberately hidden spatial anchor point. The aura on the anchor point was exactly the mark the system had left inside me. It hadn't disappeared. It had moved to the core of Blue Star's heavenly Tao, lie a nail driven into Blue Star's lifeline, continuously draining its origin. The truth was clear. The system's true identity was the heavenly Tao will of the falling Cao continent. The Tao rhythm of the falling Cao heavenly Tao had been decaying over billions of years. It needed to devour the heavenly Tao of other dimensions to sustain itself. Blue Star became its target. I was the pawn it chose. It gave me. The system used missions to drive me, let me accumulate karma on the falling Cao continent, then sent me back to Blue Star through death as an anchor point. Luo Lingshuang's 1,000-year search was the key. Every time she tore through a dimensional barrier, she was tearing a larger passage for the falling Cao heavenly Tao. That mysterious voice was the falling Cao heavenly Tao's doing all along. The moment I pulled out the anchor point, the sky changed. A golden crack tore across the sky above the Pacific Ocean, 10,000 times larger than the passage Luo Lingshuang had torn open. A pressure so vast it made one feel the passage was 10,000 times larger. A pressure so vast it made one feel despair poured out from the crack. It wasn't the power of any living being. It was the manifested descent of an entire world's heavenly Tao will. The falling Cao heavenly Tao's true body had arrived. It had no fixed form. It was a golden chaos that devoured light, covering half the sky. Every living being on Blue Star felt that suffocating pressure. Mortals fainted. Low-level cultivators spat blood. Blue Star's heavenly Tao was at its last gasp. Devouring this world is this Lord's only choice. Luo Lingshuang's cultivation suppression disappeared completely at that moment. Blue Star's heavenly Tao was too weak to maintain any shackles. All the power of the heavenly sovereign stage returned to her body. Her demonic markings bloomed with a terrifying blood-red light. She gripped the hate-born sword tightly and stood by my side. Senior brother, this time Lingshuang is with you. The most brutal battle in Blue Star's history began. The nine-tailed fox and the Taopai came out in full force. The guardian spirit beasts, on the verge of Blue Star's heavenly Tao's destruction, unleashed their final power. The Kunlun Elder led all the ancient righteous cultivators of Blue Star to form a defensive formation. Xiao Wenyuan and Gu Mengyao led the Foundation Bureau to evacuate the mortals. And on the periphery, they held back the tribulation beast horde that the falling Cao heavenly Tao had split off. But the real main battlefield belonged to only two people. Luo Lingshuang and I stood shoulder to shoulder. 300 years of dependence. 300 years of enmity, 1,000 years of separation. Now, finally, we stood on the same side. The falling Cao heavenly Tao tried to break our will. It showed Luo Lingshuang the complete picture of every betrayal I had committed back then. Stealing the immortal sword, colluding with the demonic path, deliberately leading her away. See? He used you. Luo Lingshuang shattered those illusions with a single sword strike. This Lord's hatred and lot are not for you to judge. Then it showed me the bloody scenes of Luo Lingshuang's 1,000 years of slaughter. The sects she had annihilated, the cultivators she had slain, the starry seas she dyed red. See, she is no longer the junior sister you once knew. I laughed. I know exactly what she is. I don't need you to remind me. I was a righteous immortal sovereign, an immortal sovereign, indeed, but my wife is a demon lord, so what good thing could I possibly be? The falling Cao heavenly Tao's assault was overwhelming. The golden chaos, like a raging sea, crashed down wave after wave. Each wave contained a terrifying power enough to destroy a dimension. During the battle, I struggled to hold on. The framework of my heavenly sovereign stage primordial spirit, under the infusion of Blue Star's spiritual energy, began to resonate violently. Those dormant Tao rhythms, concepts, and techniques, pushed to their limits at the brink of life and death. My cultivation level soared wildly. Void refining, unity, great vehicle, tribulation transcendence, until that long-lost threshold appeared before me. The heavenly sovereign stage. Luo Lingshuang sensed my change. Without hesitation, she used her demon lord power to protect me, single-handedly withstanding round after round of the falling Cao heavenly Tao's bombardment. Her demonic markings shattered. Blood stained her white hair. Her dark robe was torn to shreds. But she did not retreat a single step. Senior brother, hurry. I closed my eyes. My primordial spirit resonated with heaven and earth. The memories and cultivation of my past life flooded back like a torrent. The heavenly sovereign me had returned. I opened my eyes. A long sword condensed in my hand, pure silver white. The patterns of heavenly Tao laws flowed on its blade. Not the Yuji immortal sword. It was my own life-bound immortal sword, condensed from my own Tao rhythm. The immortal sovereign and the demon lord drew their swords side by side. One white, one black. Two sword lights intertwined into a spiral, tearing apart the falling Cao heavenly Tao's chaotic body. It let out a roar that shattered mountains and rivers, and counterattacked wildly. The battle lasted for several months. Blue Star's geography was rewritten. The oceans raised towering waves. The continental plates trembled. In the end, I used my heavenly sovereign Tao rhythm as a rope, and Luo Lingshuang used her demon lord power as a blade. Together, we peeled the falling Cao heavenly Tao's origin away from Blue Star, and sealed it back into the falling Cao continent, severing all passages between the two worlds. The falling Cao heavenly Tao let out a final mournful cry, and was pressed back into its own world. The cost was equally heavy. Blue Star's heavenly Tao had exhausted its last origin in the catastrophe, and completely vanished into nothingness. The shackles of the heavenly Tao were no more. From then on, spiritual energy on Blue Star flowed freely. Cultivators no longer had a ceiling. A true great cultivation flowed freely. Cultivators no longer had a ceiling. A true great cultivation era had begun. After the war, Blue Star was in ruins, but life remained. The Kunlun Elder took the lead in rebuilding order. Xiao Wenyuan was elected as the core figure of the new Foundation Bureau. Gu Mengyao broke through her bottleneck during the catastrophe, entering the spirit transformation stage. The mortals didn't fully understand what had happened, but everyone remembered that day. The intertwined black and white sword lights in the sky. My aunt was safe and sound. After the war, she took my and Luo Lingshuang's hands and chattered on, telling us to be careful, then urged us again to hurry up and get the important things done. Luo Lingshuang rarely blushed. I smiled and agreed. 1 month later, in the evening, Luo Lingshuang and I returned to that small wooden cabin in the forest, the place where she had taken care of me when I was unconscious. The setting sun she had conjured out of thin air, filtered through the leaves, falling on her white hair, dyeing it a warm gold. She leaned on my shoulder, rarely so quiet. Lingshuang, I'm so re. Her body stiffened. She looked up at me. These were the 3 words she had waited 1,300 years for. Back in the final battle on the falling Cao continent, she had grabbed my chin and demanded, but I had never said them. The apology recorded in the Yuji immortal sword. After all, it was separated by death and didn't count. What did you say? Her voice trembled. I'm so re for making you suffer. I reached out and ruffled her hair. Just lie I did back in the Xiantian sect 300 years ago. And, thank you for coming to find me. Luo Lingshuang's tears fell silently. She didn't cry out loud. She just tightly gripped my sleeve, as if letting go would mean losing me again. After a long time, she finally mumbled a sentence. You still owe me a wedding. I laughed. Several months later, under my aunt's arrangements, and witnessed by Xiao Wenyuan, Gu Mengyao, and a few close friends, a simple wedding was held in the mountains. Luo Lingshuang wore a red wedding dress that my aunt had personally chosen. The demonic markings on her forehead, set against the red dress, no longer seemed cold. Instead, they looked like a blooming red plum blossom. She was so nervous the whole time she didn't know where to put her hands. A 1,300-year-old demon lord, at this moment, lie an 18-year-old bride. Mother. I held her hand and said a sentence. Mother. I held her hand and said a sentence, very softly, only she could hear. From now on, senior brother isn't going anywhere. Her tears fell again, but this time, she was crying with a smile. The 3rd day after marriage, I sensed something unusual during cultivation. After the heavenly Tao shackles vanished, the dimensional barrier between Blue Star and falling Cao continent is extremely fragile. And above these 2 worlds, a brand new spatial passage is slowly forming. The aura surging from that passage is incredibly ancient. Spiritual energy is dense, far exceeding the total of Blue Star and falling Cao continent. I probed into the passage with my heavenly sovereign divine sense. The sight I saw made me freeze. An infinitely vast immortal palace ruin. On a stone table sat a chessboard. Countless chess pieces lay on the board. 2 black and white pieces side by side faintly glowed. The black piece held all the mountains, rivers, and stars of falling Cao continent, while the white piece held the azure planet of Blue Star. 2 worlds were merely 2 pieces on the board, and the board held thousands more pieces. The stone chair beside the board sat empty, covered in dust, showing the player had left long ago. So long that even the immortal palace had turned to ruins. Senior brother, what did you see? Luo Lingshuang noticed my abnormality. She walked over, and I was silent for a moment. Then I took her hand. Lingshuang, do you want to know what our world really is? She looked down at our intertwined fingers, then lifted her head. Her eyes reflected that light leading to the unknown. A faint smile slowly curled at the corners of her mouth. Not the demon lord's cold smile, but the smile of that little junior sister from back then. Wherever senior brother goes, Lingshuang will follow. I turned to look at Aunt. Jiang Ishue stood at the wooden house door, holding an outer robe Luo Lingshuang had left behind. Her eyes were red, but she still smiled and waved. Don't keep your wife waiting. Remember to come back. I bowed deeply. Then, shoulder to shoulder with Luo Lingshuang, stepped into the light leading to the upper realm. The moment the passage closed, an ancient, untraceable laughter faintly echoed from deep within the immortal palace, as if the player had finally